Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to 365 Live. 365 Live is a platform where we educate the public on cancer and encourage a cancer prevention lifestyle. Whenever you see this logo, you'll know that 365 Cancer Prevention Society is currently having a live broadcast. My name is Mark, and I will be the host for tonight's live session. This talk is specially brought to you by 365 Cancer Prevention Society. 365 Cancer Prevention Society was founded in 2003 as a social service agency with IPC status, and we are a full-fledged member of the NCSS. The Society's mission is to serve the community through holistic cancer prevention measures. This is accomplished through health and nutrition education, promotion of healthy lifestyle, and our lymphatic detox exercises. We also provide practical and emotional support and care for our members and their family members in their battle against cancer through our residential and hospital visitation, counseling, nutritional support, and wellness services. So please like, share, and comment on all of our social media pages for the latest updates on our events and activities. Before we begin, I would like to introduce a campaign by 365 Cancer Prevention Society called Are You at Risk? As you may know, lung cancer is one of the most common cancers in Singapore. Hence, 365 CPS has launched Are You at Risk, a first of its kind lung cancer screening campaign to raise funds for individuals over 40 years old who have smoked or are smoking and are from low-income backgrounds to attend a sponsored low-dose CT scan. This screening will allow for early detection of lung cancer and early treatment. If you know anyone who may meet the following criteria as shown on this slide, do take a photo of this slide right now and share it with them. They may register by emailing our 365 CPS staff, Eileen, at the following email: eileen.tan@365cps.org.sg, or contact any of our community partners in the next slide. Here are our community partners. Do spare a minute to take a photo of this slide as well if necessary. Remember, early detection saves lives, so the simple act of sharing may go a long way to help a dear friend, neighbor, or family member. And not to forget, a special thank you to all of our partners for making this lung cancer screening possible. So, before we start our talk for tonight, please kindly note that all information shared at this event by the speaker and 365 CPS are for general information only and may be subjected to changes. Do consult your doctor for personalized and detailed medical advices. Tonight's topic is on refresh yourself with a good night's sleep. You will learn about the benefits of good sleep hygiene and some tips on how to improve sleep quality. We have with us here our speaker for tonight, Ms. Kimberly Keong, 365 Cancer Prevention Society's very own art therapist. So without further ado, let's welcome Kimberly. Hi, Kimberly. Hello.
Hello,
Thank you very
thanks,
much
Mark.
for joining us tonight. Yeah. So without further ado, I'll pass the time over to you, Kimberly.
All right, thank you. Okay, so hi everyone. Today I'll be sharing on how you can refresh yourself with a good night's sleep. And this is an overview of what I'll be going through today. So firstly, we'll be taking a look at two articles to see how much we've been sleeping in Singapore. And perhaps sometimes we see that sleeping is an individual issue, but it can be helpful to understand certain societal factors that affect our sleeping habits and patterns. And then I'll be sharing more on what exactly is sleeping well followed by the benefits of sleeping well, as well as the consequences of imbalanced sleep. I'll also be sharing several factors that affect our sleep. And finally, after understanding the different elements that affect our sleeping habits and sleeping patterns, as well as the benefits of sleeping well and the consequences of not sleeping well, I'll be sharing on ways in which we can improve our sleep hygiene. So let us take a look at the first article. This was released back in 2014, almost 8 years ago. And in this article, it showed that Singaporeans were among the most sleep deprived worldwide. And so a survey was done, and Singapore was found to be the third most sleep deprived city out of 43 cities. And in this article, respondents shared some of the reasons behind their sleep deprivation. So one of the reasons was related to the lack of work-life balance. So some people said that even on their off days, their colleagues were giving them work calls. And same with after working hours in the middle of the night, they would receive messages and calls from colleagues which would disrupt their sleep. And another reason was also the lifestyle habits. So in Singapore, we're very privileged to be well connected digitally. We are able to keep up to date with the latest news, with the latest entertainment through social media, through different apps. But on the downside, people are sacrificing their rest time, their sleep time, to spend more time on these leisure activities. And subsequently, we see more recently, this survey was done just last year, where about 1,000 people responded. And as you can see here on the header, it was found that only 27% of people in Singapore get enough sleep. And in this survey, getting enough sleep meant getting at least 7 hours of sleep per night. And as you can see here on the screen, in the graph, the light purple bar reflects the amount of people who talked about how much they would like to sleep each night, and the darker purple side showed the reality. So in actual fact, only 27% of people could get 7 hours of sleep per night, but 80% of respondents wanted to get more than 7 hours of sleep per night. And in this same survey, we see that there has been a slight decline to sleep quality over the years. So if you look at the last row, we see that less people are getting a full uninterrupted sleep per night, and more people are waking up multiple times a night. So after going through these two articles, I'd just like to invite each of you to just reflect on this question. How many hours of sleep do you get a night? How many hours did you sleep last night? How many hours did you sleep the past week? Did any of the responses from the people in the survey resonate with you? And as you're thinking about that, you might also be wondering how many hours of sleep is enough. So as we see in the second article, most people wanted at least 7 hours of sleep. But perhaps we're not sure, is that sufficient? Is that insufficient? Or is that just too much sleep actually? And so this brings me to my next section, where I'll be sharing more on what exactly is sleeping well. So firstly, we can take a look at it in terms of quantity. So this is a chart, it's a reference chart to show the ideal amount of hours of sleep one should get at different life stages. And we see that as we age, we require less amount of sleep. And I suppose that most of you tuning in here lie within the last two categories. So yes, we actually do need at least 7 hours of sleep, when we're fully grown adults. And for any healthy individual, having 4 to 5 sleep cycles a night would allow yourself to be fully refreshed and energized for the next day. So over here, you see this ring, and this ring actually represents one sleep cycle. And one sleep cycle is about an hour and a half to 2 hours long. And you also see that it's separated into 4 different segments. You see N1, N2, N3, and REM. So this represents the 4 different stages of one sleep cycle. And so each stage is defined by different brainwave activities and different muscle tones of our bodies when we are asleep. So when we fall asleep, it begins at N1, and then it moves in a clockwise direction towards the REM stage, the green part, and then it repeats 4 to 5 times, ideally. So as you're falling asleep, that is at stage 1. So this is the transition between being awake and being asleep, and your body is slowly tuning out the stimuli around you. So for example, noises will start to get tuned out. And as you fall deeper into sleep, then you'll go on to stage N2, where your body temperature drops and your heart rate slows down. And this is not considered deep sleep yet, but it's just a deeper sleep compared to stage N1. And then as time progresses, we go on to stage N3. And this is actually the stage of the deepest sleep, where your blood pressure and breathing rate slows down, your muscles relax, and this is also the stage where your body repairs itself and your brain detoxes. So actually, researchers have found that during this stage, harmful protein buildup during the day in your brain gets washed away. And this actually reduces the risk of Alzheimer's. And so from stage N1 to N3, that would take about an hour. And then we reach the REM stage, the 4th stage, where your brain is actually a lot more active, but your body is immobilized. And this is also the stage where vivid dreams tend to occur and your eyes are moving rapidly. That's why it's called the rapid eye movement stage. And it's also at this stage where memories are being consolidated. So whatever happened during the day, it's all just being processed in your brain over here. And emotions are also being processed during this stage. And then after that, after the REM stage, it will continue along the ring in the clockwise direction 4 to 5 more times before you wake up in the morning feeling energized and refreshed. And so when we talk about sleeping well, we're looking at quality as well, so not just quantity. So apart from going through 4 to 5 sleep cycles, having 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night, checking in with how long you take to fall asleep and taking note of how many times you wake up in a night can help you see whether you have quality sleep or not. So if you have sufficient quality of sleep, that would mean you're able to fall asleep in 30 minutes or less, or if you wake up no more than once per night. And if you do wake up in the middle of the night, you are only awake for 20 minutes or less. Now let us take a closer look at what are the benefits of sleeping well. So we can look at it on 3 levels. The first one would be on the biological level. So firstly, sleeping well can improve your immune system. And just 2 slides ago where I showed the sleep cycle ring, we see that at stage 3, your body is actually repairing itself. Your brain is able to detox. And also during this stage, proteins that help to fight off infections and inflammation are actually released. So that helps to maintain your immune system. And then naturally, that will reduce the risk of health problems and increase your energy level. And sleeping well also helps to regulate your endocrine system. And your endocrine system is actually responsible for metabolism, for your appetite, for your weight. And so it can help you to maintain a healthy weight. And as I mentioned just now, sleeping well can help you repair muscles and regenerate cells. And secondly, on a psychological level, sleeping well can help reduce the intensity of unpleasant emotions. And as we saw just now, during the REM stage of the sleep cycle, your emotions are being processed, even though you're not aware of it when you're sleeping. So that leads to a lighter emotional load when you wake up the next day. So that you could experience perhaps a greater tolerance of unpleasant emotions, and you might even feel lighter after sleeping well. And with greater emotional stability, that can help in better decision making, because perhaps you feel you might be less impulsive, or you might feel less aggressive when you're frustrated. And with better memory consolidation, that can also help you improve in your own capacity in retaining information during the next day. And naturally, this will enhance your attention span and your performance at work, be it at work or at home with your different responsibilities. And thirdly, on a social level, sleeping well can help reduce interpersonal conflicts, and this can be tied to the previous slide. So chances are when you have better emotional regulation, it's easier to be in perhaps disagreements without being in a heated argument. And when you're in a more socially harmonious environment, that can reduce the sense of loneliness. And sleeping well can also improve positive social perception. And so what social perception means is your interpretation of other people's facial expressions or their body language or their tone. And so not sleeping well, when we're groggy, when we're not able to focus well, we might perceive inaccurately other people's intentions, facial expressions, and that can lead to misunderstandings. Yeah. And so sleeping well with all these social benefits, it can increase social engagement, and naturally there will be a greater relationship satisfaction. And so what happens then if we continue to overlook our sleep quantity and quality, if we continue to neglect our sleep hygiene? So these are just some of the consequences. Oops, hold on. Apologies. Yeah, so these are some of the consequences of imbalanced sleep. So one would be health problems. And previously we saw the purpose of each stage in a sleep cycle, where we see at certain stages, it helps with our immune system, it helps with detoxifying our brain, it helps with repairing our body. So with insufficient sleep or excessive sleep, that can lead to health problems. For example, problems with the health of your heart, or blood pressure, or appetite issues. And another consequence would be weight gain. And another one would be daytime sleepiness, which would influence your capacity in decision making, and it would also affect your memory. And also, daytime sleepiness can also increase the risk of work-related accidents. Yeah, and as we saw just now, sleep can help regulate your emotions. So without sufficient sleep, that can lead to higher levels of anxiety and depression. So then now let's look at the factors that affect our sleep. And I think this is important for all of us to know, so that we are aware of factors that are beyond our control and within our control. And And I think sometimes it's also important to be patient with ourselves in adjusting our sleep routines and not be so hard on ourselves when we're not able to put together a perfect sleep routine and when we're not able to fully control all the factors that affect our sleep. So we can first look at it on an environmental level. Okay, so environmental factors are pretty self-explanatory. It just means things that are around you that affect you. So firstly, temperature, sound, and noise can affect your sleep. So when it's too warm or too stuffy or too humid, naturally it will cause a lot of, physical discomfort, and it's harder to wind down and fall asleep. And with sound, if perhaps if you hear neighbors shouting or construction noises, chances are it will be very difficult to fall asleep because the environment is just not peaceful enough. But on the other hand, if say you have a soothing playlist of soft nature noises or soft piano pieces, that kind of soothing music can actually help you fall asleep better. And another environmental factor would be safety. So if you're in an environment that is unsafe, your body would be in high alert and your mind might be in an overdrive, and that will also affect your ability to wind down, to calm down, and to have a restful night of sleep. And another one would be exposure to light in the evenings. So actually for light, any exposure to light actually prevents our body from producing melatonin, which is a hormone that actually helps us fall asleep. And this hormone is only produced when we're in the dark. And so right now, especially in Singapore, when we are surrounded by so many street lamps, when we have devices all around us, these actually impact our ability to wind down and fall asleep. And another one would be work arrangements. So as I mentioned earlier just now, the lack of work-life balance can affect your sleep, especially when you're interrupted by the buzzing noises in the middle of the night, or if you work in shift hours, having an irregular work schedule also makes it more difficult for your body and mind to adjust to a steady rhythm of being awake and being asleep. Yeah, and another one would be interpersonal conflicts. Yeah, so with added stress from these conflicts, it can also make it, it can even cause physical discomfort such as tension headaches or an uneasiness in your chest and shallower breathing, and all these will definitely impact how you're able to just calm down and fall asleep. And apart from environmental factors, there are also personal factors that affect our sleep. So one would be physical activities. So for example, very high pace aerobic kind of exercises actually produces endorphins, and this actually keeps our brain awake. And so it's actually recommended that you do all these exercises about 2 hours before your bedtime so that you have time to just slow down and prepare yourself for bed. Another one would be hormonal changes and stress and health conditions. And if you're taking medication for any of these health conditions, that might also impact your sleep because there might be side effects. So some medication actually becomes a contributing factor in insomnia, and some medications have a drowsy kind of side effect. And another one would be the natural pattern of sleep. So some of us might find that we are more of an early bird or we're more of a night owl. So that actually, genetics play a part in the time where we feel most awake or inclined to sleep. Yeah, another one would be sleep disorders and revenge bedtime procrastination, which I'll go more into detail right now. So revenge bedtime procrastination is a phenomena where people push back their bedtime to do things that they find fun and relaxing. And this often happens when most of the day is spent working or doing tasks that require a giving of ourselves to other people. So there's very little time for you to just recharge yourself, to connect with yourself. And this can look a lot like playing 2 more Netflix episodes at 11 p.m. Because we were just done for the day at 9 p.m. And so this actually becomes counterproductive in the long run because the quantity of sleep that you're getting is compromised, and you're not able to replenish your energy sufficiently for the next day. Okay, so after going through all of that, we can now look at ways in which we can improve our sleep hygiene. And so we can look at it first from things that we can exclude. So one would be taking long naps. So anything that is more than 30 minutes is highly discouraged during the daytime because that would disrupt your sleep later on in the night. And another one would be electronic devices. So as I mentioned just now, light actually prevents the production of melatonin within us. And with our phones, there comes blue light, which actually keeps us awake. And also the stimulating content on social media, on different apps, can also keep our mind even more active. Yeah, which is not ideal before bedtime. And for smoking and caffeine, for smoking, the nicotine in it is actually a stimulant, same with caffeine, and that actually keeps your heart rate high, and that can also keep your brain activity even more active. And for alcohol, it actually disrupts the REM stage of your sleep, and this might cause your sleep to be interrupted. So you might find yourself waking up more times in the middle of the night. And another one would be excluding heavy meals. So preferably eating 3 hours before bedtime would be good because it takes time to digest your food. And if you go to bed with a full tummy, that can cause indigestion or even acid reflux or heartburn. And so now let's look at things that you can include. So one would be a consistent sleep schedule. So committing to a set bedtime each day will be helpful because that can help your body to adjust to the pace and to the rhythm of when you should be awake and when you should go to bed. And another one would be having a bedtime routine, which I'll go more into later. And another one would be having work-life boundaries. So that could look like turning off work notifications an hour or two before bedtime, or having a separate work phone from your personal mobile phone. Or you could also put your phone on silent, and not check any other work emails or work-related documents 2 hours before you go to bed. And another one would be keeping a sleep record, which I will also explain a little bit more later. So for bedtime routine activities, these are just some examples. So one could be including stretching and breathing exercises. So these are not aerobic exercises. These are exercises that are a lot slower in nature. And with breathing exercises, this can actually signal to your body to calm down, to soothe, to calm down and just to relax. And another activity that you can include in your bedtime routine would be to listen to calming music, or taking a warm bath, or journal writing. So in journal writing, you could write down the events of the day. You could write down your thoughts and feelings and concerns in your journal. Yeah, and this can be helpful in just simply letting all of it out so that your thoughts do not remain in your mind, cluttered in your mind. Yeah. Okay, and as I mentioned just now, deciding and committing to a set bedtime will be helpful. And for journal writing, just now I mentioned, just writing out your thoughts and feelings. So it doesn't need to be, in words. You can also engage in some art making in your journal. For example, coloring or drawing or painting, as you can see here on the screen. And this can actually be soothing because of the repetitive motion or the meditative effect some of these colors and some of these colors and media has. Yeah. Okay. And another one could be crocheting. So again, another repetitive activity, and engaging with softer textures often evoke pleasant emotional responses. So that can also help you to calm down before you go to bed. Okay. And so after, going through that, if you find yourself, you find yourself pretty disciplined in committing to a set bedtime, you don't take any heavy meals, you don't smoke, you don't drink, and you even have a bedtime routine, and you find yourself sleeping 7 to 9 hours. So it seems that you're ticking all the right boxes, but when you wake up, you still feel tired, you still feel prone to falling asleep during the day, and that is when the sleep record can come in helpful. And this sleep record, you can also bring it to a doctor at a sleep center just to check if you have a sleep disorder. Yeah, so in your sleep record, these are some things you can include, and you can take a photo of this slide if you want. So in your sleep record, it would be good to record the total sleep time. So the starting time would be when your head hits the pillow when you go to sleep, and then when you wake up the next day. And then you can also include a line on two assessing your sleep quality. Do you feel refreshed, or do you still feel tired after waking up? And then in your sleep record, do also note down any sleep disruptions and other factors that may have affected your sleep. So for example, you can note down the number of times you woke up in the middle of the night. You could note down a dream or nightmare that woke you up. And if you're on medication, that is also something to note down, because that could be a contributing factor that is affecting your sleep. And another helpful thing to record would be your feelings before going to bed. Yeah, and you can also track your social and workplace functioning. So this would look like being aware of your attention span and focus at work, as well as your productivity. And on the social aspect, you can also keep track of, how often are you going out for social gatherings? Do you feel very fatigued? Do you feel yourself withdrawing from these social interactions because you feel too exhausted? So these are just some things that you can take note of when you're keeping a sleep record. And these are some sleep centers in Singapore, so you can approach any of these institutions if you'd like to consult a doctor regarding your sleep challenges. Yeah, and again, feel free to take a photo of this slide. Okay, and Yeah, and now we've come almost to the end of today's talk, and I've included this image of a field, of a farm field at rest. And I just hope to encourage each of you to allow yourself to rest. And I think this is an important lesson we can take away from this image, yeah, from nature. Yeah, so after all that hard work in sowing the seeds and harvesting the fruits and vegetables, the land still needs to rest at the end of the day so that it can replenish its nutrients, so that it can still remain fertile and useful. So likewise, we do need to take we do need to take restful breaks in between. We do need to have sufficient quantity and quality of sleep to keep going in the long run so that we don't burn out, so that our health can remain in tip-top condition. Okay. And yeah, and we can also, look at it through making bread. So, after kneading the dough, all that hard work that goes in to mixing the ingredients, the dough still needs to rest in order to rise. So likewise, you do need to allow yourself to rest, to let certain processes within your body happen, so that your body is able to repair itself, so that your brain is able to detox. Yeah, all these things happen when you're at rest. Yeah, so sleeping doesn't actually mean doing nothing. A lot happens underneath underneath what we're able to see and what we're aware of. Yeah. Okay. And these are some resources that you can also take note of if say you need urgent help with your emotional health. So these are some helplines to take note of. And if you're interested in booking a counseling or creative expression session with us, feel free to take a picture of this QR code. Yeah. And what creative expressions is that we have art therapy as well as counseling with sensory and play techniques over here in 365 Cancer Prevention Society. So if you find yourself finding words difficult to use to express yourself, to communicate, another way we could go about doing it is through nonverbal ways. So that could be through creative means like art making or through miniature toys and games. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I've come to the end of today's talk, and I hope it was helpful for each of you. And feel free to type in any questions feel free to type in any questions if you have any.
Thanks, Kimberly, for sharing with us about the topic of sleep and how to cope with sleep to help us to sleep better. So I feel that the portion about the revenge bedtime procrastination is rather relatable for myself also. So thank you, Kimberly, for really letting us have that insight and awareness. Okay, so we'll move on to answering some of the questions from the floor. Okay, so the first question will be from Mei Ping. I think she mentioned, does it matter what time you go to bed in order to maximize the benefits of sleeping well? So,
Ah,
it's- mm,
so you're looking for a specific time? Is that what I'm hearing?
okay, so perhaps Mei Ping can type in the comments to let us clarify regarding this question while we move on to the next question. Yeah. So the next question will be from Max Song. Yeah, so if let's say we are unable to sleep throughout the whole night, what can we do to resolve it?
Okay. So I think just now I showed a slide with keeping a sleep record. Okay, perhaps I can pull it out again to just show you. Okay, so are you able to see my screen? Able to see my screen? Yeah, okay, so keeping a sleep record will be helpful. So I think this is just to note down what are certain factors that are preventing you from falling asleep. Yeah, and so when you're looking at these factors, for example, if there's caffeine intake or if there's alcohol intake, some of these these things are not recommended before sleep. So you can find yourself, once you've identified these factors, and if there are any factors that you can say change. So for example, reducing your caffeine intake, reducing any alcohol intake, or reducing any heavy meals before falling asleep, and you still find yourself unable to sleep throughout the night, then this is when your sleep record can be helpful in consulting a doctor at any of the sleep centers, to understand more about what might be other underlying conditions that is stopping you, stopping you from having a full night's rest. Yeah.
Okay, so it seems that for this question is that more about being aware about our daily how we actually help with sleep, like some of the things that we do that may hinder our sleep or may help with our sleep. And from there we do adjustments to help with the sleep.
Yes, correct. And then also checking in after doing all those adjustments. If it's still not working out, then that is when, you should consult a doctor at any of the sleep clinics. And and also, I think it's quite important to keep track of how it's the lack of sleep is impacting you the next day. If you feel fatigued and not, being able to connect with your friends or loved ones, and you're not able to function well at work, then I think I would highly recommend seeking professional help and advice. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next question. Yeah, so I think just now the question that Mei-Ping has asked, I think she has replied us. So she asked regarding, yes, the ideal time to go to bed. So is there an ideal time that we can possibly go to bed in order to help with our sleep?
Okay. So I don't have the answer for this, I have to admit. Yeah, but I think so I don't have the answer to this, and I think this would I think also you need to keep in mind what is your schedule like for the day. So you're able to, so if say you need to start your day at 8 a.m., then you can work backwards, keeping in mind that you need 7 to 9 hours of sleep a day. Yeah. So if you need to wake up at 8 a.m., then going to sleep at around 11 p.m. would be ideal. Yeah.
Okay, my apologies, Max Song. Maybe I can just clarify what Max Song had asked. So she's asking about what if she cannot sleep throughout the night? Okay, so that portion we have already answered already.
Mm.
So another thing is that she asked if let's say really cannot sleep, does she just lie down until dawn, or she can do something to keep herself occupied until she feels tired again before going back to sleep?
Mm. Okay. Okay, let me share my screen again. Hold on. Okay. So yeah, in terms of thinking of what you can do, perhaps you can consider some of these activities to help you wind down. So one would be stretching, breathing exercises, putting in calming music, or taking a warm bath, because that can help to lower your blood pressure, and also it can relax your body. And another one would be journal writing. And doing any of these creative activities or crafts that are, not very high pressure kind of activities, so they can be very slow and with repetitive movements. Yeah, so these are some activities that you can consider lah, including it in your bedtime routine.
Okay,
I
so
hope that is helpful.
I think there's a continuation to Mek Song's question. So she's asking about if, let's say, like taking one afternoon nap, and does it need to take another day of compensation for the lack of sleep?
Taking an afternoon nap, that will also depend how long that nap is. Yeah, so it's recommended not to have naps more than 30 minutes. So if you're taking a nap in the afternoon, yeah, make sure it's less than 30 minutes, because that would affect your sleep drive in the later part of the night lah. Then it's like a domino effect, and then it will make you it'll be difficult to fall asleep, and then the next day again the cycle repeats. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, Kimberly, you are saying that it will be good to keep it within 30 minutes. And if, let's say, you still feel tired, to endure until the end of the day when you can finally sleep at night. And then from there on, sleep a longer period in the evening. I'm not sure if you think that.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say, endure all the way to the night, but you can take short naps in between. Yeah.
Okay. So shorter
As long as you're
naps.
less than 30 minutes, yeah.
Mm.
At any one point in time. Yeah.
Okay, so perhaps Kimberly, I can ask another question, which I feel that I'm rather curious. So just now you did mention that sleep deprivation, right, is bad for us, and too much of sleep will also be bad for us, right? So um, like what do we do if, let's say, we are sleep deprived, and sort of, would it be normal to sleep a bit more on our off days, on our rest days?
Yeah, it would be normal to catch up on the sleep that you've missed. Yeah, that you've missed on previous days lah. But for having too much sleep is more of if you're getting 9 hours of sleep or more each day, and you still wake up feeling very tired, and just very drained, easily drained, then that is when there might be an issue, perhaps in your daily habits, or your sleep, or your bedtime routine, or an underlying health condition. Yeah. So by excessive sleep, it just means you're having quite a bit of sleep, like 9 hours or more each day, but you still feel not well rested. Yeah.
Mm.
But
So
for
on the
your
longer,
question, is it okay to sleep a bit more, to, if you have the luxury of time, then I would recommend, catching up on sleep. Yeah. If you're sleep deprived.
mm, okay. So if it's not a consistently long hours of sleep, but if it's only just a catch up, occasionally it's still fine for sleeping a bit more than the recommended amount of hours.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, but again, if you still feel very concerned, and if you still feel very concerned over your sleeping habits, then you can consult a doctor for more specific, tailored advice for yourself at a sleep center. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Kimberly, for answering this question. Maybe I have another question to ask as well. So, what are some of the signs of sleep deprivation? Yeah. How do we know that, yeah, we are sleep deprived? Because certain people, they have require a lesser amount of hours. Yeah. So it's very hard to gauge because everyone's number of hours will be different also for sufficient sleep.
Yeah. So for sleep deprivation, one of the signs is that you feel very exhausted in the daytime, and you might also feel your mood being affected. So being a lot more irritable or a lot more anxious, or having more mood swings in the day. And another one would be having your attention span and memory being affected. Yeah. So if you feel yourself, like your brain is foggy and you're not able to concentrate, one reason could be sleep deprivation. But again, it's important to look at other factors in your life that might be causing this sense of exhaustion, or sense of irritability and anxiousness. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for answering this question. So next so I think there are a couple of listeners that wanted the PowerPoint slides. So after
Oh,
this recording, after this Facebook Live, there will be a repeat telecast that you can rewatch through a live stream on a YouTube channel. Otherwise, it will be on our Facebook page also, which will be available somewhere after tonight. Yeah, so do stay tuned and rewatch if required. Yeah, so maybe one more question from me. So would like to ask, okay, so like, are there any other questions that uh, any of you have? Just feel free to type into your comment section, then we will answer accordingly. Yeah, but maybe I can ask another question lah. So Kimberly, like, if let's say someone gets nightmare, does it mean that a person has poor sleep quality? Because I do hear a lot about from my friends, from people around me that sometimes they have nightmare, and sort of when they wake up, they feel very groggy after that. Yeah. So what's your take about this question?
yeah, I think that's a good question. Yeah, and I think naturally, one might wonder because nightmares are not, exactly a positive experience, lah. But yeah, but I think nightmares can be normal if it's, just one or two times. Um, yeah, if you experience it not too frequently, yeah, and but I think just now you mentioned that you noticed some of your friends feeling grouchy after waking up. I think also, yeah, so I think it's important to look at your emotional response and throughout the day once you've woken up. So if you constantly feel very disturbed by the nightmares, if you find yourself not being able to go back to sleep after the nightmare, yeah, for a repeated number of times, then that is not very healthy lah. But if say, okay, the nightmare woke you up, but then you just woke up once and you're able to fall soundly asleep and you wake up the next day and you're able to go about your day without thinking much about the nightmare, and you're able to remain productive and your emotions are in check, then that's all right. Yeah. So yeah, taking note of your response lah, after being aware of the nightmare, yeah, is what makes the difference.
Okay, so as long as the nightmare doesn't affect your day-to-day living, usually if it's not repeated, it's not a repeating theme. So usually it won't be much of an issue lah for the
Mm,
resident. Okay.
yeah.
All right, so we move on to another question, I think by Satya Raj. Right. So regarding any food or drinks to help you with sleep, right, Satya Raj, uh, we may not be able to give you any dietary kind of advices, but if let's say
Mm,
you require any advices, you can approach a dietitian or perhaps a nutritionist, or a doctor to discuss about regarding food that will help with sleep. Okay, so we'll move on to another question. So I think Maxong asked about yeah, whether our counseling and creative expression session is free.
Yeah. So our sessions are free for our members. Yeah. And so you can head on to our website to check to see how you can sign up as a member if you want. Yes. Yeah. Or you can also contact the phone number or write into the email. Yeah.
Okay, so I think Jenny asked the question. So she said, uh, if let's say we are sleeping and we have a dream, but after that we feel tired, are we considered sleeping even when we dream? The tired feeling, does it mean we indeed have slept?
Whether a tired feeling. Sorry, come
Okay,
again. Yeah.
so the question is, if let's say we have slept and we have dreamt, okay, so after dreaming, we wake up feeling tired.
Hmm.
Does it mean that we have slept or we are actually not sleeping because the brain is still active when we dream?
Hmm. Okay. Okay. So I think just now when we look at the ring with the sleep cycles, we see that even as our body is at rest, right, there are still processes, biological processes happening within us. Our body is still active in repairing ourselves, in processing the emotions and memories. Yeah, so sleeping doesn't mean complete inactivity. Lah. Yeah, so there's still things happening within you as you're sleeping. But if you wake up feeling tired, it could mean that the dream had emotional impact on you. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that you have not slept. Lah. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that explains lah. So having dream is also part of the sleep lah. It's just that
Mm.
there are a lot of physical changes during the REM and the dreaming state.
Mm.
So okay, so we move on to the next question. I think Teresa asked about something that is dietary based also. So Teresa, perhaps for this question, you may choose to seek advice from your nutritionist or from your dietitian to see if that will actually help you with sleep. Okay, so is there any other questions that you would like to pose before we end today's Facebook Live? Anyone has any more questions? Okay, so I think Teresa mentioned about melatonin. Does melatonin help with sleep? Because this is a rather popular supplement.
Mm. Yes, it does help with sleep. It actually helps. Yeah, it helps. It helps us fall asleep. Lah. But in terms of taking it as a supplement, then I would advise you to consult a doctor lah, in terms of your suitability for it. Yeah.
Okay, so any other questions before we end today's session? Like any other questions? Okay, so if there are no other questions, thank you, Kimberly, for spending time with us tonight to have this session on sleep and how to cope with sleep. Yeah, I think I learned quite a lot regarding like the sleep log and how to regulate our sleep cycle. Yeah, it has indeed been very helpful. So thank you, Kimberly, once again. Yeah, it's time for Kimberly to make her move. Thank you, Kimberly. Thanks. Okay, so thank you everyone for your questions. At this point of time, we would appreciate if you could complete the feedback form for tonight's session. Kindly scan the QR code on the screen with your mobile devices or click on the URL link in the comment section to give us your feedback. We'll give everyone around 1 minute to fill up the QR code. Okay, so our next Facebook Live will be on risk of recurrence in HER2 positive breast cancer. It will be held on next Saturday, 24th June, 8:30 p.m. here on our Facebook platform. The speaker will be Dr. Si Hui Ti, Senior Consultant, Medical Oncologist from Parkway Cancer Center. Once again, do like and share our social media pages for the latest updates on our events, such as this Facebook Live event. Once again, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I hope to see all of you in the next session. Take care, stay safe, and good night.